Hi, this is Chris Mott from VentureCloud, and in this video, we'll be talking about how B2B startup founders can grow their businesses using international revenue and doing so with good unit economics, and finally, helping teams to figure out how they can use AI services as a competitive advantage. So, first of all, who is this video for? Well, this is basically for startup founders and specifically ones that have the ambitions to be category leaders and global, particularly in terms of revenue, if not physically. And also, if you're a VC partner and you're looking to drive more international revenue and use that as a way of creating shareholder value and triggering exits, then this is a excellent way to begin. So first of all, why is this important? Well, it just boils down to helping startups to scale and grow their valuations at the end of the day. The things that we do, well, first of all, there are basically three use cases I would describe as far as Venture Cloud. The first one is called go-to-market discovery, and that's very focused on the international side of the business, and it's really unlocking the brains and the minds of your buyers by going directly to those top 10 or 15 companies that would move the needle and engaging with executives within those companies that can help you to understand how you're perceived as you're going to market. So this is a very pure way of getting your product positioning correct, understanding your competitive landscape, and basically collecting the knowledge that you have in your head, Mr. and Mrs. Founder, as well as your key knowledge owners within your company, pouring that into videos and other resources that are addressing the needs of those perceived or the perceptions of the buyers, and basically doing that in a very light touch, efficient manner. So in addition to the idea of discovery, there's the ongoing scaling of the business. So these are those projects that are 6 to 24 months long. And after you've codified your specific snowflake, your own growth engine based on that first use case I gave, the second thing is putting constant pressure on those important market segments, especially in those remote markets, and consistently having your team engaging that. So those are iteratively building out that growth playbook, tuning up the CRM, making sure that all of the automations and insights that can be brought to bear without putting pressure on your team, and doing that repeatedly in terms of that those core geographies that you're focused on. And those are things which we can actually do with some heavy duty support in terms of some bodies, some extra team members, as well as some capacity around those efforts, or they can be very lean and light touch. Because again, in that very first project, we've done a lot of the definitions and can scale back and give you very high unit economics as you share your story internationally with our international network and our events and other things. So those are a couple of the most common use cases. And then the last one, which is probably 10 to 15% of our projects, is VCs and startups that come to us when they're in those last 12 to 24 months prior to exit. Very interesting when you've got great quals in Europe, and you have maybe no quals, or you have a few quals, testimonials, clients, flagship clients there in the US market. Getting additional customers with revenue does about a 6 to 10x boost in terms of your shareholder value. So each dollar of revenue you bring in brings in 6 to 10 typically for most B2B companies if they do this. So this is a fantastic way to add value. You imagine you spend even 50K on a project and you bring in one client for 100K, well, that's $1 million in shareholder value, and going by that sort of 6 to 10 to 1 shareholder value to revenue ratio. So this is something we've seen work very well. So again, those three use cases are basically the market discovery, the go-to-market discovery, where you're codifying that growth engine, that ongoing scale where you're putting pressure and you're continuing to support the company and the growth team, and then finally that exit packing, that value packing that goes in. So how is it that we actually go about doing some of these things? Well, first of all, in stage one, those first 3 to 4 months, we're testing a variety of patterns. So we've worked with 300 companies on the international go-to-market question, and we help to bring all of that to you, and then we'll go direct into some of those top accounts directly, and we'll collect raw footage for you. So if you're going into aerospace, we'll be talking to Lockheed and Boeing. If you're going into retail, Macy's and Nordstrom's. If you're talking about banking, then Bank of America, technology, Cisco, and others. So basically, it's up to the company, but that first stage is really about engaging those top accounts and bringing that back in house. Second stage is tuning the process of codifying things, the CRM, getting the playbook together, so that your sales team doesn't have to guess on how their messaging for international revenue should be done. As well as we may write a video script, and the why, what, how structure of a video, which is more educational, is a fantastic way of supporting your sales team and helping them be more successful as a founder, and getting out of the business of repeating yourself over and over again, as many founders do. And it's something which can be interesting for a while, but at a certain point, we got to move the founders and the knowledge workers that really understand these sales stories and compelling cases. We got to get that packaged and repeatable through videos. So continuing on, that third stage, so really beginning to enable the team to focusing on boosting of the valuation, so strategic milestone closure, and then finally getting towards that exit. So you're wanting to really scale this out, figuring out your exit segments, achieving milestones that are going to support your exit objectives. So lots of startup cases. So we've worked with seed stage and early stage. Seed stage benefit from capturing requirements, international requirements, and building their product so it's a more globally oriented product from the beginning, and also something that's easier to explain to international executives. So you're getting sort of two birds with one stone. The early stage companies like Adyen and Qgo here, between 25 and say 60 employees, in these cases, and you can get these off of our website, so I'm not going to go into them in depth here, but basically these are cases where in one scenario they ended up landing Cisco as an exclusive global partner. They used Cisco as a channel to land Verizon, which became their first actual customer in the US, and about 6 to 9 months after that, the company exited to a German industrial. So it's sort of part of that, the track record that the companies start to take note of, like, oh my gosh, you're working with Cisco, you must have something interesting there, if they've done their due diligence on you and built out an exclusive channel partnership with you for a particular solution area. Qgo, one of my favorite examples, a Dutch company in AI, Prime Ventures, Nuion funded here in the Netherlands, and in those first 6 months, building that growth engine, that discovery effort, we basically got super lucky and landed 2 flagship clients in those first 6 months doing this discovery process, United Airlines and Bank of America. And little did we know that got us on the radar for an exit about 9 months after that, and it was great for the founders and shareholders as well. So lots of testimonials from these folks. You can read these again on our website. We're happy to share this deck with you, go into it later. This is also something that works for scale-ups, so pre-unicorn companies that are understanding that there are certain strategic segments that they've got in the market. So there's a segment that they're not quite putting the focus on that they need to, or they're realizing that they need to build out a horizontal business development capability where they're sharing, sort of case studies, and they're sharing tools and approaches to the market across various vertical markets, so or solution areas. So having this sort of horizontal architecture is something that works for small companies in the sense that they're getting out of the office and they're engaging the strategic companies and bringing that in-house to the various functions of the business, products, marketing, BD, etc. But also at those larger companies, 200 people, 1,000 people, where they know that they've got to improve their strategic results. And so this is a methodology that actually fits all of them. Lots of industry cases, tons of clients and partners that have been successfully captured, or a better word might be collaborated with, based on this approach. But needless to say, this is something that really works well in a remote sense if you're wanting to engage a market, discover the go-to-market, land some flagship things, and keep building on that low unit economics model that gets you results and shareholder value. What makes us different, I think, is our desire to share our experience and the fact that we've done this over many years. In fact, we've launched an online platform. We still believe it's about the people, but the platform helps provide some of the basics, putting all of the tools in one place, using templates and project blueprints that have worked in the past, even using networks that have worked in the past, going back to some of the same executives and saying, hey, we've got another interesting solution. Would you be willing to take a look at it? And quality begets quality. So VentureCloud is something which we're pretty pleased with, and some examples, concrete examples of some of the project templates. So use case discovery questions, focus group formats, discovery workshops for your investors. These are all things we've done lots and lots of times, as well as those network lists that are usually a third at least of the executives will reach out to, the other 2/3 being sort of specific to the company and are kind of going in cold, but we're going to go in through friend networks and affinity networks. A lot of productivity tools, more and more tools are coming out. I consider a growth playbook that's derived from that first stage as being a tool, but then using ChatGPT on the email daisy chains, or to build an agenda or a video script, or find similar companies that you're targeting. All of these things are examples of new use cases that generative AI have brought out, but there have been tons of AI tools in the past and that still exist, which are application services, microservices that we're aware of that we consider tools. And if you can be 30% more productive than the competition year over year over year, that definitely is going to imply some compounded market share acquisition and some flagship deals that you're going to get that they are not going to get. Finally, resources. Again, we've got a couple thousand people that have been industry folks involved with our events in the past. This is in the US and in Europe. We continue to do those things, workshops, get people together, help people build relations. We make those people available as advisors. Most executives like to look out for their corporate interests, but also love working with startups. And there's lots of other resources which are available. So these are things that are sort of wrapped up and provided in one place for that growth team and that executive team and that investor team. So everyone's on the same page and there's no politicking, ideally, and people are really getting things done together. So again, another snapshot of the VentureCloud platform. Along the left-hand side, you see some of the channels there, the target list, the use cases, the raw footage on the interviews. We can grab that, throw that through a generative AI application and create features and kind of an objective view on stuff that's useful for the product development team. But again, the go-to-market team is the group that really gets to leverage all this stuff. Who's been involved? We've had tons of great companies get involved over the years. Like I said, a couple thousand executives on the vertical market side, but then hundreds, dozens, if not hundreds of people from the high-tech industry, which is interesting because everybody's smart in terms of using machine learning and how to do things using insight and using data in order to basically transform their businesses or their industries. And that's a people network that we like to bring, and I'm sure it could be useful for you. The concrete way that this network has been brought together, we did our first event back in 2013 with SoundCloud, Adyen, Shazam. SoundCloud had less than 100 employees. Now they've got more than 1,000. Adyen hadn't done their first external investment round yet. And Shazam was 4 years from being acquired by Apple. And those were the types of folks we were really asking, how is it they've been successful so far? And we've continued to do these events. We've done dozens of these things. And the last one was in Amsterdam this last October. And let me see if I can bring up the video here really briefly. Oh, you can hear it. There we go. So what you're going to see here is that we bring in, usually it's less than 100 people in the room. It's going to be essentially, very great startups that are in that 10 to 75 person range.
Some of the customers' experience in today's world are not something that is being solved before.
We're doing focus groups, so the executives are right there with you.
Transformation leaders across the world are trying to identify startups that they can work with.
So anyway, you get the picture.
Yeah, you can find some of the partners who are mature or who are maturing, something that I would be interested in.
Right, so, these events, it's all about meeting people, building relationships, having a good time, and we've always got that remote piece of it, which involves these international executives who, again, are from the US, from Europe. Afterwards, we'll have a DJ, some parties for those people that are on site, and it's just a great, it's a great fun thing. So, being part of VentureCloud puts you involved in those types of things as well. So, all right, so that's pretty much all that I wanted to tell you. So I hope that you enjoyed the presentation here. We've got lots of testimonials. Happy to do a call at some point. Again, infrastructure commons. To me, that's the future, and there's no way around it. Also, with generative AI, is going to be more and more providing patterns and helping people, startup founders, talk to the patterns. So, to me, that's the most interesting thing. For a decade, we've been doing growth consulting and helping interesting B2B companies go international, get those international revenue going, and we would claim to have those patterns in our heads and provide those to you, but now, with a few videos from the successful founders, with the speech to text and feeding that into ingesting that with generative AI, literally you can begin talking to the patterns and figuring out what's worked in the past, cutting to the chase, and saving money while you're being super successful with your business. So thanks again for joining with this video today. I hope it makes sense, and looking forward to talking with you more about this at some point. So feel free to reach out. Thanks.